Hey there, and welcome to the Girl Means Business podcast, the show that's all about helping photographers just like you build a thriving business without sacrificing your sanity. I'm your host, Kendra Swalls, a former teacher turned full-time photographer and marketing coach, here to fill your earbuds each week with practical tips, real-life stories, and a whole lot of encouragement. So if you're ready to dive in, let's get to it because this girl means business. Hey friend, welcome back to the Girl Means Business podcast. We are officially on summer break in my house, which means that I no longer have my quiet, peaceful work hours to record episodes in. So just know that over the next several episodes, if you hear background noise, it's probably just my kids or any friends that they have over or any of the chores that I have probably asked them to do, because just trying to keep kids busy during the summer hours and off of screens and devices is entirely a job on its own, but we're here, we're doing it. I'm excited for summer break. Okay, so I want to take a little step back and tell you a little bit about how I come up with some of the ideas for the episodes I put out here on the podcast. Now, sometimes they come from things like conversations I have with other photographers, or conversations I have with clients, or things I see on social media. Sometimes they are even just things I think of kind of through other things like watching a show or listening to another podcast, or all, different places that I get inspiration for the episodes. And today's episode is somewhat inspired by a conversation I actually had with a recent client. So typically I am photographing branding sessions, some boudoir sessions, but I also do the occasional family session. And I actually contract with a company called Flytographer. And so I'm one of their local photographers here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And so whenever they have families that book sessions through them, I will take on those sessions. And what's fun is that I've had a couple of clients through that Flytographer contract job that have been repeat clients. And I had a session this past week with a family who I had photographed the mom and dad when they were on vacation here, just the two of them a couple of years ago. And then they were back with their three kids. They wanted to do a family session. And when I finally met up with them when we were doing our session, I was reminded that the dad is actually kind of a semi-hobby photographer himself. Mostly he photographs like landscapes and when they travel and things like that. Very, very sweet family. And so when I pulled out my camera, he was like, "Oh, you've switched to Sony." Did not even think about the fact that, yes, I have switched over the last, it's really been the last several years. So I don't remember when it was that he saw me, probably right before I switched from my Canon camera to my Sony camera. But he was asking me like, "Oh, well, why, what made you switch? What do you like about it? What lenses are you using?" And through that conversation, it really got me thinking about how rare it is that a family or a client ever asks me about my equipment. I've never had a client ask me like, "What memory card are you using?" or "What software do you edit with?" or, like, "What lens are you shooting on?" Now, again, you occasionally get those people who are kind of amateur photographers themselves or are other photographers themselves that are in the photography know that kind of will ask you about your equipment, your gear. But the average client that I am working with has no clue what to even ask when it comes to what lens I'm using or what camera body I'm using or what settings I'm using or any of those things. And so it got me thinking about, like, as a photographer, I see a lot of conversations online about equipment, about gear, about lenses, about, what do you use to back up your photos? And that's all important conversations to have. But I think sometimes that can bleed over into what we think our clients find important. An example of this is when I take on new coaching clients, one of the first things we go through is I do an audit of their website. And a year or so ago, I had a client hire me to do a couple one-off coaching sessions. And so we did a website audit. And I was going through, and she had a little section on her website where she talked about, like, what's in my camera bag? I think that's exactly how it was worded. Like, what's in my camera bag? And she listed out like her camera body and her lenses and her flash that she uses and like all these other things. And I was thinking like, this is really interesting as a photographer. I find this interesting, but I don't know that any other like client of yours, she was a family photographer specializing kind of in families with young kids. And she also did newborn and maternity. I was like, I don't know that any of your clients are going to really care about your gear. So having it on your website isn't really needed. Now, unless you're trying to appeal to other photographers or other, like gearheads, as you would say. But just for the standard photography client, having that information out there is not super important. So when I had that conversation with her and I said that, I was like, hey, just so you know, like this is good information to have, but really like your clients aren't going to care about that. What they would want to see you say is like, hey, in my bag, I bring toys for your kids. I bring healthy snacks. I bring things to kind of like distract, or like, they used to have those, they probably still do, those things you put around your lens that has a little stuffed animal at the top to like for the kid to look at. Like those are the kinds of things your client might want to know. Or if you're a wedding photographer, things I bring in my bag, I bring bobby pins, I bring double-sided tape, I bring whatever else you might need on that would actually benefit your client. But for the most part, your client doesn't necessarily care about what type of equipment you are photographing with. And so that kind of information, when you're presenting yourself out there and you're trying to set yourself apart from other photographers, is we want to be building connections with our clients on things that they actually care about. And so I started thinking, driving home, and I'm thinking about this topic and what can I talk about on here? And I was thinking like, okay, what are the other things that photographers think their clients care about, but that actually aren't that important? So the gear was one of it. Another one was like any kind of technical jargon. So anytime you're talking about a photo and you mention like the bokeh, they don't know what that means. Most clients are not going to know what bokeh is. But if you say like, oh, it's like, or depth of field even, they're not sure what depth of field means. And so if you explain it as like, well, when you're in focus, but everything behind you is really blurred out, that's what I'm going for. So being very pedestrian and kind of the way that you are talking about the things in photography that actually they can understand. You got to put it into the terms that they will understand. The other things they don't necessarily care about is a perfectly curated Instagram feed. And this is one of my biggest like pet peeves on social media right now, is I see still to this day, there's so many people that go into Facebook groups and they will ask the question, can someone look at my Instagram feed and tell me if it feels cohesive? Or like, here's my 9 grid on Instagram. Can you tell me like what vibe you get from this? Here's the thing. Nobody is really looking at your Instagram feed as a whole. Most of the time, people are seeing your content on social media in isolation. They're seeing one image in their feed. The only time they're really going to go to your actual feed and look at anything that's as a whole picture is if they're interested in like finding a link to click on. But I can tell you the other day I was on Instagram, I was clicking on someone's feed. I saw like their post come through my feed. I went to their account to find a link to something because I wanted to go to their website to look for something. I could not tell you what their actual like grid looked like. I couldn't tell you if it was cohesive. I couldn't tell you if it all looked similar or different because that's not what I cared about. I wasn't going to their Instagram account to treat it as a portfolio. Now, should you be considered, if you're really posting content on social media a lot, do you want your feed to be kind of representative of what you do and what you offer? Yes. But do we need to spend a ton of time creating this perfectly curated feed of content that is not really going to get looked at? So that's just some of those things that I feel like nobody really is paying that much attention to that we need to be putting that much attention to. And then the next thing is like these fancy like editing trends. So a lot of times we think like, oh my gosh, our clients want to see the latest, coolest trend. We have to be ahead of the trends. And I'm also one of those people that like, I'm not a trendy person. Like I'm not someone who follows the trends. I typically stick to like this is what I like, this is what I'm good at, this is what I do, and here's what I offer. But your clients also, they want to know that they're going to get something that they can rely on for a long time. So they're not caring about like, oh my gosh, I'm going to hire this photographer because she does the blurry movement trend. That's amazing. Now, there are probably going to be some people who are specifically looking for that thing and they may find you because of that. But they also want to know that that you are going to give them things that are still more traditional images. And so just if you're trying to chase these things, or you're putting a lot of energy into talking about your gear or the technical side of photography or this perfectly curated feed or these fancy new trends, just know that's not entirely what your audience probably cares about when it comes to looking at finding and hiring a photographer. So let's flip the script around a little bit and let's talk about what clients actually do care about. Like, what are the things that they are looking for when they're looking to hire a photographer? So one of the first things they're going to look for is this someone that I can trust? They are looking for reliability. And what that looks like in a fast, like quick snapshot between a website or social media is, do you have one, social proof? So they're going to be looking at Google reviews or other people that have tagged you in their photos on social media. They're going to be looking at Facebook reviews. They're going to be looking at like anything that's going to help them feel like you are someone that they can put their trust in. Because with as much as we all, rely on social media, as love it or hate it, it's true. We're also using it as a way to see, like, is this really something I can put my trust in? So an example of this is the other day, I'm online and, you start talking about one thing or you're searching for something online and all of a sudden Facebook is serving you all of these ads for that same thing or something similar. And I've been looking for like tank tops that have the built-in sports bra, because in the summer, like nothing is worse than having to put on a sports bra and then a tank top and then like go run errands or do whatever. I just want something comfortable that I can like throw on and go about my day. So I was looking online. Well, then I was looking on Amazon. Well, then I started getting all these ads on social media for like a 5-pack of these tank tops with a built-in sports bra. And so I went to one of them and I clicked on it. It was like 5 of them for $25. I was like, oh, that's awesome. But I'm looking at the website and I'm starting to notice, like, one, I'm like, okay, it almost sounds too good to be true. 2, everything they sell is like a 5-pack of something. So it's like a 5-pack of purses, a 5-pack of, jogger pants, a 5-pack of these like little matching top and short sets. Like everything's a 5-pack and everything is $24.95. And I'm like, oh, okay. So in my head, even though they might be a legitimate company who actually sells these things, there were all these little things that made me feel like, I don't know that I can trust this. Do I really want to turn over my credit card information to this website when I don't know that I can fully trust them? And even when I clicked on the item, there were no reviews for me to look at. There were no like I love going to Amazon and clicking on like pictures of people wearing the thing before I actually buy it. And they didn't have any of that. And so it just kind of took that trust out of it. Whereas Amazon does a really good job of building trust because, one, like they've just built a huge social awareness of themselves. But 2, they have that feature where people can go on and not just post reviews, like, written reviews. I can post a photo of me wearing the thing and explaining why I did or didn't like it, or a picture of the actual item, why I did or didn't like it. And it's going to live there for people to see. It's not curated specifically to just the good reviews. And so people want that kind of level of trust. And so your content, your communication, like everything you're putting out online needs to create this sense of trust. And one of the ways that you do that, especially on your website, is to not be generic. If everything on your website is generic and looks like ChatGPT could have written it for you, then it's going to create a distrust, because anybody can go out there today and create a photography website and say they're going to charge $300 a session, and you can book straight online. They're giving you ease of use and simplicity, but there's no trust there because there's no real personal connection to it. So building trust comes from personal connection. It comes from communication. It comes from creating a real sense of, this is who I am. I'm a real person. Here's other people I've worked with. Here's evidence of what I do. And then also that social proof of the Google reviews or the Facebook reviews or other clients tagging you in their content. So trust is one of the first things that your clients are going to be looking for and that they actually do care about. Another one that goes along with that idea of trust is they care about the fact that they're going to feel comfortable with you because they're being put into a very vulnerable situation. They are being asked to go in front of a camera and have someone take their photo. Most people don't love the idea of that. There are some people out there who do, but a lot of people are very intimidated by the idea of having their photo taken for whatever reason. They don't like the way they look. They want to lose weight. They don't know what to wear. They feel like they're going to look awkward. They've had bad experiences in the past. There's a multitude of reasons why they feel uncomfortable in front of the camera. So on top of looking for someone who they're going to trust, they're looking for someone that's going to help them to feel comfortable in front of the camera. So anything you can put out there that's going to allow them to know, like, hey, this person's going to understand and they're going to help me feel comfortable in front of the camera. So for example, if you're a family photographer and you know one of the biggest stresses that your clients have as moms is that they worry that their kids are not going to behave in front of the camera. So if you can ease those fears and share content on social media, in blog posts, in emails, on your website, everywhere, with topics, things like, here's 3 ways that I help to keep your kids engaged during a photo shoot so we get the best possible photos. And you share 3 little tricks that you have. Or, just talking about the things that your clients worry about, talking about, are your kids going to behave? What should we wear? How to get your spouse involved and excited about taking photos, the best locations to keep kids engaged during a session, or the best time of day, or, any of those types of things. That is going to help to relieve their stress, relieve their anxiety. It sets you up as an expert in what you do, and it's going to build that trust. So it all kind of comes back to not only that trust but creating an experience where before they even meet you, your potential clients are thinking to themselves, this person gets it. Like, they get me, they get my concerns, my fears, my worries. They've put me at ease. I feel confident that they are going to be able to do what I need them to do to get the photos that we want and that I envision in my head. So making them feel comfortable before they ever even get a chance to book with you. The next thing your clients are looking at to know, is this somebody that they want to book with? Things that actually care about is how easy is it to actually find the information they want and then to reach out to you? Because again, going through multiple people's websites, I have seen just how confusing it can be. There's the number one thing I see is I'll go onto some photographer's website and it's an amazing website. It's beautiful. It has great storytelling behind it. But nowhere on their website can I see where they're located. And so if I'm a client, especially if I am maybe looking for a photographer outside of my normal space. So if I'm traveling for the summer, we're going to Florida to take pictures, or my family, we travel a lot every summer, and I love the idea of doing our family photos while we're on vacation somewhere. And if I'm traveling to Denver and I want to hire a photographer in Denver and I pull up these photographers doing a search, but it doesn't really tell me where they're located. I don't even know, maybe they're not really even in Denver. Maybe they are located somewhere in a different part of the state, or maybe they will shoot in Denver, but they live in Wyoming. I don't know. But having your location clearly stated, or the locations you serve stated on your website, is key, because that kind of stuff that when we're creating the information we put online seems so obvious to us is not always obvious to everybody else. We want to make sure we're giving them an experience before they ever book with us that says hey, I'm going to provide you with as much information as you need to feel confident in what you are doing, what you're booking. So creating this simplicity around, how do they find the information they need? Is it easy to know where you're located, what you offer, how much do you charge, or at least what's a starting point, how to get a hold of you? What is the process going to look like? I learned this many times over when I was really getting into doing boudoir photography, because as I'm a very laid back person, like I don't need to know all the information before I go in. I'm very much we'll figure it out once we get there. And so I'm not someone who looks up a restaurant menu before I go, or I'm not someone who needs to know every detail of something. But I also realize that I am an exception to the rule. There are a ton of people out there who need to know what's going to happen when I show up in order for them to feel comfortable showing up. I have friends that are this way, that if we're going to go on a trip together, they need to know in advance, okay, what time are we getting to the airport? What time are we arriving? What are we going to do once we get there? Are we going to get an Uber? Are we going to get a taxi? Are we going to rent a car? Okay, then what are we going to, they want to know every little step of the process. And when I was starting to get into the boudoir space, I realized that more so than any other type of session, my clients needed to feel comfortable with the process. They wanted to see the studio space. They wanted to know okay, there's a private bathroom you can go and change in. Okay, there's going to be, my makeup artist will be there for this part of the time, but then she'll leave. It'll just be us. Here's where you're going to hang your stuff. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to show up. This is what you're going to do. This is what we're going to, we're going to do your hair and makeup. You're going to, have time to sit and chat. There'll be music playing. Then I had to walk through the whole process in my welcome guides and on my website. That amount of information, even when it seems obvious, in my mind, it's obvious that if I'm hosting you as a boudoir client, that I would have a private space for you to change. That is not always obvious to the client. So the more information you can provide to your client that's going to make them feel comfortable, cared about, and understood, and also prepared, the more likely they are going to be to book with you. It's just one of those things that they care about. They care about knowing that information. And then the last thing is the experience. So once they have gotten all the information ahead of time, they care about the experience of how easy is the booking process? How easy is the communication with you? This is a big piece of it, is the communication. And I'm a big proponent of workflows. If you are not great at keeping up with client communication, creating automated workflows that are going to send out those personalized messages to your client ahead of time is going to make your business feel so much more hands-on. It can be as simple as once a client books with you, it triggers a workflow in whatever CRM you're using. So I use HoneyBook. You could also do this in Flowdesk, but I like that HoneyBook, it ties it to the client project. And so once they book, let's say it's a boudoir session, then I have it set to where 3 weeks in advance before their session, it sends them a little reminder email hey, your session's coming up. I'm so excited about your session. Here's how you can start prepping for your session now. Start drinking water. If you're going to get your hair done, if you're going to get, if you're going to have any exfoliate your body, or you're going to get a spray tan or whatever, here's the things you need to know in advance. And then 2 weeks before, and then 1 week before, and then 3 days before, and then the day before. And so having that lead up, that communication ahead of time, so that they're not thinking 3 days in advance, hey, I haven't heard from my photographer and our session's coming up. They know that they're in constant communication with you. Even if you're not physically going online during those days and sending those emails yourself, they're being automated, but they still feel like they're having that personal touch. That personal experience just gives them peace of mind. And that's what they care about. They don't care about what camera body you're bringing to your session. They care about, do I feel like I have received all the information to know what I'm getting into? Am I getting an experience that feels high touch? Am I getting an experience that feels personalized to me? Those are the things that they actually care about. So while having the best gear, the greatest editing technology, all that stuff is really key for us as photographers, we also want to make sure we're focusing on the thing that our clients are actually looking for when it comes to searching for a photographer that makes them feel comfortable, excited, and prepared for their session. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this week's episode. Thank you so much for tuning in and for being here again this week. If you found this episode helpful, I would love for you to share it with a friend, post it to your stories, put it on your Facebook feed, just share it with someone else so that we can spread the love. It means the world to me when y'all share this podcast with your friends. So make sure you share it with someone today. Thank you so much for tuning in this week, and I will see you back here next week, same time, same place.